Hi, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to First Center for Spiritual Living and our class for tonight. We had a little technical glitch that we're resolving behind the scenes here, but everything, as you all know, is in divine order, always. Let me introduce you to the class while we're working out a few things in the background. I've been exposed to the book, You Can Heal Your Life, as most of you know, since it first was written and published, which was in the mid-'80s, I think it was 86, 87. And I found myself called to facilitate a group in Florida based upon this same book. This book is now sold over 65 million copies and has been read by, they say, over 100 million people. And that's really pretty amazing, since New Thought is such a relatively small group of people. Louise really made a mark on our movement, and she brought our teaching. Sometimes I call this class the Holmes, that's Ernest Holmes and Hay class, because she had the ability to synthesize some of the greatest ideas in metaphysics so that anybody, just about anybody, could really take them in and understand them. She was a phenomena, and she happened to get her education right here at First Center. We were formerly called First Church of Religious Science. So I owe her a lot personally. Because of her, I found myself in a religious science center a few years later, after I was teaching the same material I'm presenting tonight, and it led me into a little bit of a deeper dive into metaphysics and self-healing. So on Thursday nights, I invite people in on Facebook or into the center. I'm inviting people to come back physically now, since it's more safe. On Instagram and YouTube, people will find us during the week. And you're always dipping into a bit of what I call the conversation on any given Thursday night. And there's really no wrong way to approach it. If you're hearing us for the first time, I want to say welcome to the teaching. Welcome to First Center. I hope you're open to these ideas so you can consider them, evaluate them, see if they work for you. We never ask you to just take anything we say on face value, but have an open mind so you can consider some of these ideas and see if they can work for you. So tonight's lesson, I don't think I'm going to do the entire thing because it's really a bit of a workshop, but it's on the subject of fear and doubt and our critical thinking or our propensity to criticize and judge. And I've called this lesson different things over the years, and one of which I named it, The Sky is Falling, and then I said, no, correction, the sky is not falling, okay? And by that I mean, our world is as we create it, and nobody in truth has done anything to me or to us. And that speaks of a great metaphysical fact, which is, everything is evolving in perfect time, perfect place. My subjective reality might be that a lot of people have done a lot of things to me, and I might be living my life in fear, and I might be thinking the sky is falling, and all of that is a story that I entertain. Whatever the body of thoughts that go around inside of somebody's head, all the time, is the very thing that's creating their life. And everybody's had a different background. We've all been trained by different people, different families, different groups, and there's a body of thoughts and thinking. And the totality of those thoughts and thinking, we'll call it our consciousness. My individual consciousness is the totality of what I understand and know. It will be all my fears and all my hopes and all my dreams. So when I say the sky is not falling, it's just to get your attention. Sometimes some lessons, it's not falling unless you say it's falling. And it's not terrible unless you say it's terrible. And you get to decide. There's a phrase I love from another book which ties into this, which is, in truth, there's nothing outside of you. In truth, there's nothing outside of you. So that is suggesting my word is my wand, meaning whatever it is that's living inside of me and playing inside of me, and what I dwell upon with my heart and my mind is very, very powerful in terms of creativity. And as we come into a teaching like this, on Thursday nights and on Sunday, we teach you, we have classes beyond this. This is an open entry point for metaphysical thought. This class, You Can Heal Your Life. But as you get into it more and more, you'll realize there is power, as Ernest Holmes said, for good in the universe, and you can use this power. And the fact of the matter is you are using this power all the time. So we want to get a better handle on it. If you're coming here and your life is a mess, listen, you wouldn't be the first person. And, none of our lives are as perfect as we sometimes pretend. All of us are dealing with various things. And the thing to understand as you come here is you do have the power to change your circumstances. You have the power to change, and you have the power to heal your life. You can heal your life. So the question is, how do you do it? How is it done? Can it be done quickly? What are the steps? So we'll talk a little bit about that tonight. And I'd really like to invite everybody, if you find any of this engaging, you can watch it again on Facebook 24 hours a day. You can join us on Sunday mornings. You can become a member here. It's very easy. It costs very little. You just send us a message. A membership is about $50 a year, and most of the stuff we offer here is free, and it's of great value. So we'd love to have you be part of our online community, and you're welcome to come in to our center. Also, our membership does give you also several coaching, counseling sessions with me. And we do have people here you can talk to if you need to. But most of what we do here is we talk about the teaching. And the teaching is really always going to be about you and your practice, your thoughts. So tonight, if we're thinking in terms of consciousness and we're thinking in terms of healing, if we have our life working against us, is we oftentimes find ourselves in a place where we're wondering, why is this happening to me? And the first place always to look is our thoughts, right? Our attachments, the things that we absolutely want to have happen and go a certain way. Our critical thinking. By that I mean the ways in which we are being critical. A lot of us have very strong opinions, and we have a lot of judgments, and that's the type of stuff that we take a look at, and that's what we're taking a look at tonight. Our judgments, our strong opinions. I had a statement for this lesson, which is a positive statement. It's much more valuable for us to look at what's good in others. Our focus, the practice of religious science, by the way, is for us to see the good. Edwina Gaines, years ago, a teacher, someone who impacted me quite a bit, she said, you're here to see the good in the God and the good. Now, some of you might be turned off by the word God. But the idea of looking to see the good, our focus, if we're here to see what's possible and what's good, if that's your focus, you have a consciousness that by definition you're going to be elevating yourself and others. If you have a consciousness that's always seeing the problem, then you're always going to be seeing the problem. So a word for the wise, to start this evening off is it's far more valuable for us to look to see the good in ourselves and in others. We want it to be our preoccupation, is to see what's right. Ernest Holmes, our founder, talked about learning to live the affirmative life. And I've been thinking about that for a good 20 years. And what that means. Learning to live the affirmative life goes hand in hand with the rest of what I just said. If you're here to attempt to see what's good in others, you're looking past the flaws. If you're here to love yourself more, Louise Hay was very much on teaching us self-acceptance and self-approval. And she would say, in the now, self-acceptance and self-approval in the now are the keys to all positive changes. She wasn't always going back to what's wrong and what's wrong with us and what's wrong with other people. She was always focused on the present moment. And each and every moment is for us to bring this healing activity in perceptually by seeing the good, right? So it's much more valuable for us to look at what's good. If you can train yourself to see what's good, you're going to really quicken your whole evolution. Anybody can parrot, what's wrong. You can do that habituated thinking of what's wrong and what's missing. But it's a real challenge and a real gift. A gifted person who's learn to live the affirmative life in such a way that Emerson would suggest, Emerson wrote, where you can get your bloated nothingness out of the way, and he said, where you could get your bloated nothingness out of the way of the divine circuits. So Emerson had this consciousness that understood that we live, move, and have our being in this divine energy. And we'll experience it to the extent we can get all that bloated stuff out of the way. And that stuff will be all the critical, habituated thinking that's been with us for so long. We don't gain much from criticizing, as you probably all know. Generally speaking, the things that bother us about others, I've learned the hard way, often represent issues of my own. And I can remember very much, it was in my 20s, and I was in groups, and I could see what was wrong with everybody. And I thought, oh my goodness, I could diagnose people. I thought I was a psychiatrist. But the thing is, if you're really good at seeing the flaws in others, most likely you haven't yet owned those aspects of yourself as of yet. Eventually, as you grow spiritually, as you grow in this teaching, you're going to understand, what you see in others or aspects of yourself. As you grow and as you learn to heal your life more and more, you're going to have less and less challenges with other people because you're going to understand, as Louise so eloquently says in the book, that everyone is doing the best that they can with the information, the understanding, and the awareness that they have. So I know that's true in my own life. Whereas I might have been reactive to everything at one point in time, now I notice, I notice things, but I don't necessarily have the need to say anything. I can drop it, can understand that they're in the perfect place, perfect time. And the real gift in this is you get to be at a place where you're comfortable with yourself eventually. Even with your flaws, you'll know that, you were in the perfect place, perfect time, and everything's evolving. They are, the world is, you are. So we come together on Thursday night and we consider some of these ideas. Today we want to explore some of the benefits that we can acquire from freeing ourselves of what we always call the story. So what's the story? Well, you all have one, right? You have a bunch of them. I have a few, right? You might not even think of yourself as a critical person, right? You just might not think of yourself as one, but I know as you listen to the lesson more, I'll say things that you're going to think, oh yeah, I do that. So here's a list. It's kind of long. I'll abbreviate it for you because I think originally I put this together for an afternoon event. So here's our list. Think in terms of your inner dialogue. Just the thoughts you've been entertaining, say the past few days, right? Today, the past few days. Because the thoughts you've been thinking the past few days are the very things that are creating this week for you and will create your tomorrows, right? So we want to become more mindful of what it is that we're spinning within ourselves. There's a lot of judgment going on, and wherever within you there's a lot of thinking that's okay, this is right, this is wrong, this is a signal for you, right? One of Louise Hay's words in her book she would love to throw away in the English language was the word should. And she said, because wherever you use it, wherever I use it, I'm in most cases making myself wrong or somebody else wrong. So over the years, I've had students, I've said, well, I've got a pretty good handle on the word should now, but I find that I use a lot of its synonyms in a similar way, like saying, Greg, I should have done this, or I should have done that, or, or command phrases, you have to do this, you have to do that. So we're trying to ease it up a little bit and not be quite as rigid and judgmental with ourselves and with others. So in this list, and you can, as I read through a few things, self-assess. You can say, oh yeah, I do this, or I don't do that, or I used to do this a little bit, I don't do that so much anymore. And check it out. You might have opinions about men, you might have opinions about women. You might have opinions about children or happiness, sadness. You might have opinions about Democrats or Republicans, independents, world leaders. You might have opinions about how people do things like drive cars, how women drive, how men drive, or as I've done this before, I was on a roll with drivers. Why do you think there's so many bad drivers in the world? The point we're getting at here is you're going to have a belief about some of these things, and it won't be necessarily sane or rational, but you have a belief. You might have a belief about your aptitude. Okay, I'm so many years old, and I might not think I can do such and such, right? I have a belief. Have you ever said to yourself, I can't do this and I can't do that because I'm 50 or I'm 40 or I'm not old enough or I'm too old, or so it's another belief. We fall back into these things, right? Do you ever think of any group of people, could be your own family or your relatives, that these people are so, they're idiots or they're stupid or whatever word you might come up with. Do you ever find yourself making any small group, big group of people, anything? You can make them wonderful, you can make them stupid, you can make them whatever. The thing to point out, though, is it is you that is creating these ideas about people and yourself. You might be saying, I don't know why they act this way. And the thing is, when you're doing that, you're unconsciously judging them. You're playing out old assessments from the past that you're putting right into the present. Or do you maybe say to yourself, and this is sad if you do, it's too late for me. It's too late for love, or it's too late for me to educate myself, or it's too late. I don't have the ability in some area of my life. Or instead of talking about the health that you have, all your commentary is about what's wrong with you. And that's critical. You may not even realize you're doing it. If you want to turn it around as a good practitioner of this teaching, you're going to focus on whatever health you have and talk about the health you have. Back to the assessment. Have you ever thought that some group of people, or it could be men, it could be women, it could be any, just think of whoever it is for you. Some group is violent, okay? I don't know if they're coming from other countries. I don't know if they're coming from the next street. But you've got an assessment there, a judgment. Have you ever thought, or do you think life is not fair? And it's not good, it's not fair, or life is hard. And about yourself, have you ever thought that you're too tough, or you're too easy, or you're a pushover? Have you ever said to yourself, well, I would do it if I lost 10 pounds. I would do it if I were something else. Are you putting off your good, in other words, in some way? Have you ever thought, as you're looking at another person, the way they're put together or attired, and you make these statements. Dr. Barker used to be famous for that. Oh my God, this person's a disaster. They're looking at their attire. Do you do that? Or in terms of a person who seems over the top, have you ever thought that he or she's over the top? They're too much. They're too this or too that. If so, there's just more assessments, judgments. Or you're looking at what people do and you're saying, oh my God, that's awful, and they're terrible. Do you do any of that? Or have you ever sounded like that? Again, to the personal attire. How can they dress that way? Don't they know that they shouldn't wear stuff like that? It's the ugliest coat or dress I've ever seen, or blah, blah, blah. Back to yourself. Have you ever thought, I can't do this, I can't complete that, I'll never be able to do this? See, if you're doing this stuff, again, we'll go right back to Florence Scovel Shinn. Your word is your wand, right? So whatever it is that's coming out of your mouth and with these assessments is creating your life experience. How about your thinking? Have you ever thought, I'm so negative? If you really, really knew what I'm thinking, you would not want to hang out with me. People put on a social mask. Most people clean up well, right? And they interact well. But, there's a story that's going on underneath the surface with just about everybody. And so there's that question that she has, if they really, really knew me, they wouldn't like me. Well, if you really feel that's true, then it's time to start to change that conversation around. And that's what we do here every Thursday night. You might be entertaining some idea that I'm a klutz, I'm a fool, I'm always acting like a fool or act foolishly, I'm a sucker, I fall for this, I fall for that. If that's the inner dialogue, that's the type of stuff that we want to turn around. I've probably got 200 more examples, so there will be a point where I'm going to say enough is enough here. Have you ever, you feel like nobody listens to you? Have you ever felt like nobody asked me what my opinion is, or my opinion is not wanted, or my opinion is not needed? Have you ever looked at anyone else's possessions, their cars or their houses, and you had commentary about that, one way or another, right? Or here's another example. There's an older guy and he's got a new sports car, and you've got some thoughts about him. And now he's got a sports car and he has a younger woman. You have some thoughts about that too, right? And you go into a whole stream of thoughts and thinking about this guy, his age, his sports car, and the young woman. And there's an inner thing that happens with us when we do this stuff. Have you ever thought about the way an individual speaks and form an assessment about that person, one way or another? You don't like their laugh, the way they handle themselves, their cackle, their whatever it is. Have you ever thought about your coworkers as being inferior, or your friends? Have you ever thought of people as being lazy? And regarding your own social circle, have you ever thought that you don't have friends, you don't have good enough friends in your life? Everybody leaves you, or have you ever thought of yourself as being unlovable or unlucky? So that represents about a quarter of the checklist. I have to think that most of you are getting the gist of this by now. Because in a workshop, I'd break you in, I'd have handouts, and I'd do all of that. So I'm going to skim through some of these things. regarding the idea of being worthy, in religious science, which is where Louise Hay got her training, we are each taught that we are individualizations of this one power. That's an important phrase. I didn't always understand it. So we understand that there is power, there's presence, and we're all a part of it. We're individualizations of this thing. Last Sunday we did a talk where Dr. Barker said, "You are the whole thing. In you is everything you're ever going to need. You are one with the one." And yet many of us have this consciousness where we feel that we have to do something to be more, who we are is not enough. And so you come into a teaching like this and we're going to say, you have the whole thing right here in you, operating through you as you. There's nothing more you really have to do, maybe except open yourself up to the truth that you are an individualization of this eternal life presence. And you have within you an internal guidance system that's always attempting to expand by means of you. So how do we have that happen? Well, the thing we want to do is we want to pay attention and become mindful of the conversation, the thoughts and the thinking that are with you all the time. Because this tendency of thought that goes on within me and within each of us is the thing that actually outpictures in your life. Your word is your wand. It's more than just your spoken word, though. It's your body of thoughts. So I've taught this in lots of different ways. If you were going through the forum or someplace, they would talk about the racket. The racket is the accumulated thoughts and thinking that you have. If you were dealing with the 4 agreements, similar way to approach this would be, we have all these agreements. We've been hurt in our lives. Things have happened to us, right? And so we have this scarring and we have these beliefs. And the thing is, we carry them around in our day-to-day living. And these broken places, we have these beliefs and they just accumulate. And they're not necessarily, none of it's really based upon anything that's real. But if we want to change our life, and if we want to heal our life, which is, again, the name of this book, You Can Heal Your Life, then you really want to take a look at all these underlying beliefs, right? And we want to get rid of the racket. We want to quiet the negativity. Someone said to me, it seems like 100 years ago, every loving thought is true. And I've thought about that for a long time. And it's true in the sense that if you can lift your mind out of what's wrong and the fearful thought, and you can raise your sights higher, hitch your wagon to a star, and keep focusing on the good of the person, the good of the situation, if you keep lifting your consciousness up, you're going to find that your whole world is going to change. So, whatever story it is that's spinning inside of me, what I've learned over time is it's never about the other person. We have all kinds of situations in our lives, and the thing is, if we want to be empowered, we want to be thinking more along the lines, I'm creating this situation to be this, or I'm creating this situation to be that. See, that is an empowered person because you're going to say, I am creating this situation or person to be something. Louise Hay would teach us very eloquently, again, that everyone is where they are, right? They're all evolving. And their behavior might be reprehensible sometimes, but everyone is where they are, okay? We're all doing the best we can with the information, the understanding, and the awareness that we have. When we really get to that place, we start to have greater compassion for people, no matter if they're friend or foe. We realize they're doing the best they can with what they have. And you begin to develop the same type of appreciation for yourself. There's a line I like from another book, which is, I am as the universe created me. And in the love, the light, and the glory. I mean, so here you are, one with the one, evolving perfectly in space and time. So when I asked that question on Thursday night, what's it like being you? I'm really asking you, what's the conversation? What's the conversation like? Are you acting like, woe is me and ain't it awful? And is that the conversation you're perpetuating? Are you seeing yourself as disadvantaged or a victim? Because if you are, you're the author of your own life experience. So I want to be really careful and more mindful of what it is I'm thinking. Whatever I can do to turn that conversation around is worth all the effort in the world. I was involved in the teaching of this material when Louise Hay's book first came out. And most of the people in the group that I was involved with, men and women both, were dealing with AIDS. And there was no medication that was working at the time. There was no medication for it. And yet I witnessed people heal physically, psychologically, mentally. I really saw miracles happen. And now we know that there is mind-body connection. We know that we can heal. We know that we can heal our bodies. We know we can heal, our experience can be transformed. We have the power to heal and to change and to evolve and grow. And Ernest Holmes did say, there's power for good in the universe. As I said before, greater than you, of which you're part, and you can use it. So there's another fellowship that I'm involved with which says, but you got to want it, okay? It's one thing to tune in here on a Thursday night or a Sunday, but to be that change that you're looking for, you've got to want that kind of change in your life. So there's a degree of willingness. Willingness is the key. And this involves you having the ability to take a little bit of a look at yourself and what you're thinking week by week, day by day, and working with your thoughts. We can teach you how to do affirmative prayer here, which is a very powerful prayer process. Some people think it's the most powerful prayer process that exists. And as we teach you affirmative prayer, we will teach you to quiet yourself and align yourself and know that there is one power and you're a part of that power. And whatever it is that's bothering you, we will suggest you make a statement that will neutralize the problem to bring you to a place of truth and where you have an acceptance within yourself of that truth. And when you are centered in your knowing and you have spoken your word of truth into what we call into this universal mind, you will neutralize the false idea, and you will, in effect, bring forth a demonstration into your life. You have the power to heal. You have the power to heal all situations and any situations. But it starts with the willingness, the desire. Usually I think that gets stirred up because there's something within us, which is spirit, that's longing for greater expression and wanting you to step out of the mess and to join into a more elevated way of living. When people come to our classes, they're not coming here by coincidence. They're coming here because they want to connect and they want to be reminded. You have everything you need within you. All we do is remind you of how great you are and remind you of the power you possess and remind you to drop the story. Drop the story that you're something, that there's anything wrong or missing, because you have everything you need. You always have had it. You might not have always been supported in the ways for the highest and best, but it had to have been enough to bring you to the place where you are now. And so it gets easier from here on out because you can keep working with this and I like to say leveling up more and more and more. All power is yours and you can use it. And so that ends this evening's lesson. We'll see you in a moment and we can hear what you have to say. Thank you.